The Surreal Life. I'm Rebecca Lieb,
I'm Jason Horton.
and this is Ghost Town.
In December 1972, Marie Helene de Rothschild threw a Surrealist Ball at the Chateau de Ferrières. It is one of the many and very large and very extravagant chateaus owned by the Rothschild family, located about 15 miles outside of Paris. We're going to be talking about, you guessed it, the Rothschild Surrealist Ball of 1972.
This is incredible. This is so amazing. I love surrealism. I love talking about rich people. I love chateaus 15 miles outside of Paris. I love the 70s.
So I familiarized myself with the Rothschild, just, I've heard their name before as a powerful, wealthy family, and obviously a lot of conspiracy / Illuminati talk comes with that. And of course, I don't know if it's obvious to a lot of people, a lot of anti-Semitism
For sure.
comes, and it goes back a long way. It's not something that's recent. It's a long history, and I have really no opinion on the Rothschilds. I don't necessarily love the ultra insanely wealthy, but I also am not going to, I guess, be anti-Semitic just based on...
You can hate the wealthy for a lot of reasons. Being Jewish probably isn't a good one. I'll say that.
I'm not a big conspiracy theory person. Do I find it fascinating sometimes? Absolutely. And I absolutely realize that not every piece of information is out there and available. And sometimes people's conspiracies, in rare occasions, or maybe more, I don't know, are correct. But for a lot of it, I consider it dangerous, not helpful, and usually pretty hateful. So again, I'm not defending them where I'm like, leave the Rothschilds alone.
No.
Because I don't hate the wealthy. I don't love them either. So it's not a love-hate thing for me. It's just something that I found interesting that happened.
You're just being a real journalist over here.
Yeah,
know?
I just dug deep, but I didn't know anything about it, and I had to really, I don't know. It's a very strange. Well, the story's very strange because it's another one of those where the photos really make it. I mean, the photos I'll describe, and you'll be like, wow. This picture is worth way less than 1,000 words, the way you're describing it, but definitely look them up on your own.
Yeah.
You'll find it worthwhile. But now that I got all that disclaimer out of the way.
Good.
And a lot of French that I'm pronouncing incorrectly. I apologize. The Rothschilds are a banking dynasty. And again, this is a very truncated version of their history. Originated in Frankfurt, 18th century. That was about right? 18th century.
Right.
And then the family seemed to split off that dynasty, going to England and, of course, in Germany and in France and a few other countries. So they really kind of spread out and became a very powerful, wealthy banking dynasty. And, with money becomes power. I get that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I totally understand it. Very opulent and I'm sure very strange sometimes and interesting and all that. And I'm sure they, are not donating 99% of their money to charity. But they seem like they, from what I've seen, have been somewhat charitable. I don't know. I can't speak on that. I mean, I understand, rich people are rich.
Rich people be rich. And they also have their charitable associations too. But again, it's like, what negates what? I don't know.
We're going to zero in on the party aspect, if you don't mind.
I do not mind that.
Baron Guy or Guy, G-U-Y.
Yeah.
Edouard Alphonse Paul de Rothschild. That's just his first name.
I mean, the dog.
He's got 18 names. He married Baroness Marie Helene Nalia Stephanie Josina de Rothschild in 1957. Same last name. I think they're third cousins once removed.
That's legal.
That's legal.
That's legal.
I don't care. Get it. I'll swear on a Bible. I don't care. That's
Get off
legal.
my nuts about this.
Yeah.
No, I like how she has just like a white mall girl's name in the middle. Stephanie. It's probably a Stephanie.
She was not Jewish. Did not sit well with the Rothschilds. So he was forced to resign as president of the Jewish community in France. He's president.
I didn't realize the Jewish community had presidential elections.
But, it's like the heart wants what the heart wants. And I think they're pretty like...
Hey, royals have abdicated the throne for love.
And I think this seems to kind of fit in with that. People who follow royalty and such. And they seem to, I don't know, be kind of liberal in that sense. Where they're like, we'll just do what we do. And we'll have a party to prove it. Marie Helene refurbished the chateau shortly after the marriage. It was modeled after the Mentmore Towers in Buckinghamshire.
Okay.
It was a hotspot for high society. We would not be there. Well, working, serving food.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be
you'd be a human
parking cars.
I'd be a human table.
Yeah. That's great. That's
and
cute.
I'd love it. I'd be like, well,
yeah. You'd be like, can I have one of these croissants?
No, eat this ashtray. I'm like, okay. So artists, designers, Hollywood royalty, Brigitte Bardot,
Heard of her?
Grace Kelly, hello.
Yeah, Princess of Monaco.
And so they've had many parties, and they're big.
Yeah.
Not big like this. The December 12th, 1972 party would be their most opulent and strangest yet.
Oh, yeah.
They're Taco Bell.
What?
That's it.
Not Chick-fil-A?
The invitations, written backwards.
That's just annoying. That's not opulent. That annoys me.
So you had to use a mirror to see what it... I mean, a minor...
So fucking Dada of them.
We were talking about Dada because I went to where the Dada movement began, the cafe or whatever.
Yeah.
What was that? This is an interesting, strange world.
Yeah. And Dada and Surrealism are very closely linked. They're both kind of, well, again, this is my art school education. I might be wrong, but like Dada came from this like post-war absurdity, the idea of fascism being, crazy and our world just being industrial and totally upside down from our human wants and needs. And then Surrealism kind of came from that to this very, again, dreamlike playfulness of it all. And it's very fucking cool to me still.
Cubism. I don't know. I just said that.
Cubism that's a very close. Yeah.
Okay. The attire, black tie, long dresses, and surrealist heads. So from the neck down, you're all dressed up. From the neck up, anything goes.
Anything freaking... This is like, if this were a Met Gala theme, it would be insanity.
Yeah, it's...
Just bonkers. It would be like anonymous themed.
I'd say from head to toe, but not from head to toe. From head to neck, very strange. From neck to toe, it's whatever.
Fine. Formal.
The facade of the chateau was red as if it were on fire.
Love it.
Now, you could probably start seeing at least where conspiracy theorists are kind of trying to chip away at this a little bit to find, anytime, we talked about Bohemian Grove, that episode, which I think was a little more on the nose of secret society. And that was in our infancy.
Yeah, it was a long, long ago episode.
Guests had to walk through black ribbons that were meant to mimic cobwebs in a labyrinth maze before entering the ballroom.
I love this shit so much.
The servants inside were dressed as cats and stationed along the staircase.
I'd be a cat.
So the cats would help them to their
Cats would,
tables.
take off their coats and give them champagne.
The dinner plates were fur covered. Not practical, but, Surrealist Ball.
Yeah, it's also, I think that's literally a Rene Magritte painting.
This isn't Buca de Beppo. Which is what I think. That's my version of Surrealist Ball.
Buca de Beppo.
The tables were covered with plastic baby dolls,
This is like checking
with
every Surrealist
open
box.
heads, cracked open heads.
This literally might have been an art installation that I did in grad school as well.
Taxidermy tortoises.
Hell yeah.
The menu items include sirloin, SIR-LOIN, soup described as extra lucid, and goat's cheese roasted in, quote, post-coital sadness.
I snack on that all the time.
Yeah, you roast that and everything.
I don't know. That's nothing.
What's for dessert, you ask? How about a nude woman made entirely of sugar? And the nude woman made of sugar was laid on a bed of roses. Fancy.
Sure, of course.
The designer of some of them, Salvador Dali, who was there.
That makes sense.
That makes absolute sense.
Also, to be fair, Salvador Dali would have gone anywhere,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
If I had a party in the 70s and my one bedroom, he'd be like, great, I'll be there.
He did not dress up because he, I guess, is the...
He is surrealism.
He wore a Vote for Pedro shirt from Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, God, of course. 40 years before it happened.
Marie Helene, she wore a giant stag's head adorned with real diamonds. It's bizarre. Let me tell you something. If you want to look at really interesting, very 70s, like just look at the photos, you're like, something weird's going on here.
Mm-hmm. This also interestingly reminds me of the turn of the century New York balls that they used to have where everyone dressed up. Halloween. I think the Vanderbilts had a big, don't quote me on that, party where people would have the most outrageous dress. Like someone would wear a headpiece that was like a diorama with like stuffed kittens on it, kind of a thing. It's just like the more outrageous, like the bigger, the better, the more show-stopping art pieces kind of got that glory. They're so fun to look at these pictures.
I used to go to the Vanderbilt Mansion in upstate New York for like school trips and stuff like that. That's what kind of like piqued my interest in a lot of just history in general. Yeah, I mean, upstate New York has, I mean, it's, you know, like an hour plus from the city upstate, not, depending on where you're from, you might be thinking Buffalo, but it's more closer to New York City. But Vanderbilt Mansion, yeah, it was just,
I used to go to a haunted submarine in Maritime, Wisconsin.
Okay.
That's what piqued my historical curiosity.
What did Audrey Hepburn wear? You're asking.
Yeah.
She wore a birdcage on her head.
Sweet.
But doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
Audrey Hepburn, it's like a little bird, you know what I mean?
She's very bird-like.
She's very bird-like.
She was stuck in a cage of her own reputation and beauty.
And someone else is one of a really great photo, dressed up like a sliced up version of the Mona Lisa.
Great.
So it's like the Mona Lisa, but like these slices. It's like a very strange.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And then some people in the conspiracy world said that there was an inversion where letters or sacred Christian symbols indicates Satanism. You know, Satanism was always thrown into a lot of this.
Sure.
Some of the anti-Semitism aspect of it, but just in general. And, you know, the fact that the invitations were backwards, you know, and that has not, backwards messages on albums, you know,
exactly.
What does that do? That hasn't really changed much.
Backwards feels very devilish. I would like to know the origin of that paranoia around backwards things or flipping or, inverse.
Well, if the forwards version of like Christian text is the right way, what is the wrong way? It would be the inverse of that.
The opposite.
I guess.
Yeah.
And of course, there's Illuminati imagery they find, and some of it's, probably, there's probably some strange etchings and so forth.
Sure.
And the black and white checkered floors are symbolic of the Freemasons. It goes back to ancient Egypt, where it would be every other one's black or white, so good and evil. And it reminded me, my grandmother in New Jersey, well, they both were, but another one was in New Jersey, the Jewish one, to say it, had and I think like a lot of people had these, both actually grandparents had these downstairs areas that would have like almost like a makeshift bar or a real bar, where you'd have like
rec area,
like a rec area, but it instantly reminded me the floors were that black and white. And I remember that so vividly because it is very striking, especially when you're like young, you're always... And again, when I was a kid, like you're looking at everything because you're bored. There's no, internet or anything like that. And for me, it wouldn't be for another 70 years.
That's right.
So things like a black and white board, like I really registered that. And I was like, oh, like Illuminati. Now I'm in. I
Exactly.
get it. They're right.
But like, were the Rothschilds? They didn't let Jews into the Freemasons till way later.
Yeah,
right?
they I don't know if there's really any true connection. People are just making connection.
Okay, got
which
it.
is a very easy thing to,
For sure.
It's a handshake. It's a this. It's a that.
Also interesting that your grandmother had linoleum checkered basement floors.
They seem like not even. I think they seemed almost like not marble, but that hard. It wasn't
granite?
like yeah, they were like
Damn.
yeah. It was really
That's posh as hell.
yeah, but the house really wasn't that. I mean, it wasn't that.
All the money
posh.
went into the basement rec room bar area.
Yeah, it was just. I just remember seeing that. And I was like, this is really like I'm in a video game type thing.
Oh,
It was very
God,
strange.
Yeah.
The dolls would indicate human sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, it is very, very strange. But also, some things are just strange.
Yeah.
It's called a Surrealist Ball.
Exactly. And that's was the point of surrealism, is to turn a lot of these familiar tropes and rites and events on their head. Like, that was the whole point, is to kind of create shock value and take something and like break it down to see what it actually means to you and all of that. So that feels pretty fun.
Marissa Berenson, who attended the dinner, would be cast in Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon. Barry Lyndon.
Yeah.
Remember watching that and being like, how long is this movie? And I don't know what I'm looking at. And then the Mentmore Towers, which is the inspiration for the chateau we're in now, Ferrières, is where some of the scenes of Eyes Wide Shut were filmed. And Eyes Wide Shut is
Kubricking all over this place.
so there is, and people are making these connections. And Eyes Wide Shut, I only saw it once, and it's one of those movies that people talk about when they want to talk about things that are secret society based. And it's a strange movie. And there's things with that movie you can go down, there's an extra 20 minutes they didn't show. And they're like, in that 20 minutes is where the sex trafficking happens and all this stuff. So there's a huge connection to this ball and Eyes Wide Shut, depending on what you read.
Yeah. I mean, Eyes Wide Shut, I have as a big Stanley Kubrick fan, I have a huge problem with it. I don't think it's very good. I feel like a lot of people are brought in by the sex element of it and the mystery around it, even though it's like really not that sexy at all. And just very like, it reminds me of like a sex club where everyone knows about it because it's got a Facebook group, like, all right. That being said, the origins of that are from a much cooler place. The roots of it are actually legitimately interesting to me. So that's what we do. Everything's derivative, as my art professors would say.
And the party itself was the Rothschilds' way of sending a secret message indicating they intended to rule the world.
Well, done.
But from what I'm, and other things I've read, the Rothschilds, at least the ones in France, I believe, financially were not doing, and I don't know if they operated kind of independently, but they weren't as wealthy as they once were. And the amount of wealth that they amassed changes depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
From billions to 2 trillion. And I think there's just really seems to be no agreeable answer on that. But I feel like during this time, maybe it was a way to be like, we're doing great. Why would we be having the Surrealist Ball otherwise? Or just putting up, as people do, they put up, they put up things to say everything's fine. Why, if we're not doing well, why are we doing why?
Why are we eating a sugar woman?
Yeah.
Huh?
Answer
This
me
is
that.
good.
So just a little bit from the December 17th, 1972 edition of the New York Times. I love going back and going like whatever the New York Times or the LA Times or the big paper says about something, 5 days later. The Baron and Baroness Guy de Rothschild decided to make a simple dinner for 150 close friends. It was boring black tie with full-blown surrealism from the shoulders up. Some say the sudden craving for intimacy is due to the Rothschilds' present financial difficulties, but is that a reason for hurting the feelings of half of Paris? The press was strictly not invited. Gay crashers were discouraged by the local police force, and rumors that hounds used for hunting on the estate have been set loose on the park. A pitch black entrance and maitre d' Disguised as cats holding candles, greeted the chosen guests. Many dashed off to Alexandra's emergency salon in the chateau to have their, quote, heads put on, since even the ceilings of Rolls Royces were too low.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me
Need
about
that
it.
headroom.
Tell me about it.
Hear that, Rolls Royce? Take a note.
Salvador Dali was wheeled in by his masseuse and escorted by his muse, Amanda, dressed up in a jawbone. I don't need a mask. My face is my mask.
Okay.
Oh, topical mask, huh?
Cool.
He boasted. However, for the occasion, he had rigged up an automatically folding and unfolding umbrella.
Salvador Dali is insufferable to me. Like, can you imagine having a 5-minute conversation with him? It would be exhausting.
Tables had themes such as the golden sleeping cat, depicting
Cool.
sleeping cats and mice eating cheese. The tablecloths were pink and blue clouds. The plates in mink cradling red plastic lips instead of napkins. The rolls were green. Somebody said, fortunately, the food wasn't surrealistic, said one guest with relief. The reference was the foie gras, game, and other realistic things. At one point, clutching a handkerchief to her lips, Audrey Hepburn, who was attired in a wickered birdcage, made a hasty exit. Maybe she's pregnant, one guest murmured.
What? Anytime you have to leave a party, you're pregnant? Also, how do you get food through that cage? Is there a little
You
hatch?
don't.
Oh.
Do you know anything about Hollywood? If you're a surrealist, you're supposed to know what it is like one of the messages. Like, what is it?
I love it.
If you're a surrealist, you know what it is.
I love this pretentious bullshit, and I love the whole spectacle of it. I want to have my own, I want to have like a low rent version. It's going to have a lot of green dye and nubs with a hat.
You know what I want?
What?
I want 1920s roaring Hollywood Gatsby style.